Hi everyone! In this video, we will solve multi-step quadratic equations using the square root property. Solve the quantity of 3x minus 8 quantity squared minus 5 equals 17. Our goal on these is to isolate whatever is being squared. In this case, we have a binomial. So to isolate it all alone on one side of the equation, we will add 5 to both sides, where it will cancel out on the left, leaving us with just what is squared, 3x minus 8 quantity squared. On the right side, 17 plus 5 is 22. Now that we have whatever was squared isolated all by itself on one side of the equation, we can go ahead and undo the squaring. That's why we needed to isolate it. To undo a square, we take the square root. And since a square root negates the square, it cancels out, and we're left with 3x minus 8 on the left side of the equal sign. On the right side, we must also do the square root property because we have to do whatever we've done on the left side the same as the right side. But whenever we take the square root of a number, there are two answers to get that, a positive and a negative, because a positive times a positive is positive, and a negative times a negative is also positive. So we will notate that with a positive negative square root of 22. Now, the square root of 22 is not a perfect square, so we're going to leave it as plus and minus the square root of 22. It also doesn't simplify, so we will leave it under the radical. But we have two answers now for one equation. This means that we should break it up into two equations, one taking the positive square root of 22 and one taking the negative square root of 22. So we have 3x minus 8 equals the positive square root of 22, and 3x minus 8 equals the negative square root of 22. Now we need to isolate the variable on both of these. To do that, we'll add 8 to both sides of the equation on both equations. On the left sides of both of them, it will cancel. So in the first equation, we are left with 3x equals, and I'm going to choose to put the 8 before the radical just so that it doesn't look like it's underneath the radical. So I'm going to do 8 plus 22. And this is just a personal preference. On the right side, we end up with 3x equals 8 minus the square root of 22. Notice that the 8 was positive and we have this subtraction here, so it's going to be a minus 22. Now we haven't finished solving for the x entirely, so we need to negate the 3 times x by dividing both of these by 3. And we also need to divide the right side of both of these equations by 3. On the left sides, the 3 will cancel. So we end up getting x equals 8 plus the square root of 22 over 3. And we also end up getting x equals 8 minus the square root of 22 over 3. We can list these both as the answers, and we could also simplify this a little bit by breaking up the two terms in the numerator by dividing them by 3. So we could have also written this as x equals 8 over 3 plus the square root of 22 over 3. And the other one would be 8 over 3 minus the square root of 22 over 3. And so we have two ways that we could write those. And I'm going to leave this as our answer, although either of these would also be acceptable. And now we're all done.